Article 54, the purpose of the work. It is known that the servitude is essentially to bestow contentment upon the maker. Yet one must know the meaning of bestowing, as this is commonly used, and it is known that habit wears off and the taste. Therefore, we must thoroughly clarify the meaning of the word to bestow. The thing is that the will to receive, too, is incorporated in the will to bestow of the lower one, but the will to receive can be used with correction, or else there is no connection between the giver and the receiver. This is because it is impossible that one will give and the other will give nothing in return, and that there will be a state of partnership. Only when they both show love to one another is there a connection and friendship between them. But if one shows love and the other shows no response, such a love is unreal and has no right to exist. Our sages stated about the verse, "And say unto Zion, thou art my people," Yeshayahu 51. Do not say Ami, people, but Imi, with me, to be my partner, Zohar Bereshit 5, meaning that the creatures are in partnership with the Creator. It follows that when the lower one wants to bestow upon the Creator, then the lower one too should receive from the Creator. This is called partnership. When the lower one gives, the upper one gives too. However, the will to receive should crave to cleave unto him and receive his abundance and sustenance and goodness. And that was the purpose of creation, to do good to his creatures. All right, so the first few paragraphs here are talking about the relationship between the vessel and the Creator, or the light, and that we have to take into consideration some of the relationship principles here, which are basically to understand that we're not supposed to destroy our ego or our reception, the ability for us to receive, because in the very essence that the Creator looks to give us infinite pleasure, that means we have to receive something. So there is always this degree and argument about how should I totally nullify the left side, destroy it, kill it. No, this isn't the case. We have to understand that we're just simply rising and combining the two forces, the right and left force, together so that it's balanced. And in this balance, we've now converted or changed the egoistic will to receive, the will to receive being the same, but the egoism being changed in it, as you can kind of look at it like that, so that now we've created a circuit, just like two sides of the connection on a light bulb. They both have to be giving and receiving. This, in order to create that light in the middle, this is the relationship between us and the Creator. We receive from the Creator and we give back in the intention to bestow. We adopt the intention to bestow back to the Creator, and this allows us to keep climbing degrees and attaining degrees, because the more we're giving and taking the light, the larger or the more revelation I have in the Creator. And the more revelation I have in the Creator, the more my ability, my strength to keep progressing and bestowing. So it's important to remember that we're always going to be a will to receive, but we just have to be a will to receive with the right intention. And through that intention, the connection's made. So he's going to talk about some of the worlds here. We'll kind of break it down. It's not a long article, but it'll get a little more interesting. It says, however, because of the breaking that occurred in the world of Nicodim, the will to receive fell into the domination of the klipot, the shells, by which two discernments were made in the kli, the vessel. The first is that it developed a relation to the separated pleasures, and the work of exiting the authority of the klipa is called the work of purification. The second discernment that occurred due to the breaking is the detachment from spiritual pleasures. Okay, so two things he's talking about. One is that there's this relationship now we have to pleasure in this world, and that really wouldn't be a problem because it's far minute compared to the pleasure we get from the Creator. However, the second discernment is where it causes the problem, because we're detached from spiritual pleasures. So because we're born and raised in these bodies, and we have no connection to the spiritual pleasure, we accept the worldly pleasure, the egoistic pleasure here. And we don't search for the spiritual pleasure. Right? So we have this problem. So not only do we have some small fake kind of gosh, what am I looking for? Some kind of pleasure that's not spiritual pleasure. It's temporary pleasure. It's temporal. But we're also cut off and completely removed from the spiritual pleasure. Therefore, we don't have anything to compare it to. So I don't know that the spiritual pleasure is good because there's a complete barrier between me and this spiritual pleasure. That's a problem. But it's for a reason. And the reason that we're cut off from the spiritual pleasure is because if we were allowed to take from that big vat of pleasure without correcting our intention, we would devour for the wrong reasons, and we could never attain. Because the ego would also be attempting to take that pleasure in the wrong intention, and that would cause us to be corrupted. So the system is set up perfectly so that we can learn how to accept the higher pleasure once we correct ourselves to a certain extent. It says that, in other words, one becomes distant from spirituality and has no desire for spirituality. The correction for that is called Kedusha, or sanctity, where the order of the work is to crave his greatness. In that state, the Creator shines for one in the vessels. However, we must know that to the extent that one has kelim, plural for the kli, the vessel, of purity, called evil, hate evil, to that extent, one can work in Kedusha, as it is written, ye that love the Lord, hate evil. So, just quickly, the word evil here is internal, meaning that when I receive from myself, when I don't see the one unique, unified whole of everything, then I'm evil. I'm receiving just for my own filthy pleasure, and that's considered evil. And you can see this in life. Anything I do that's selfish, even my love, I can do things that seemingly are like bestowal in the world, but they're still evil because they're selfishly regarded. I can give charity evilly. I can love my brother evilly, okay? Because it's a measuring stick. If I don't love my neighbor like I love my brother or my family or my best friend, then I'm committing evil, because to a certain extent I'm judging the two parts of the same source as one is better, one is worse. Or I'm committing blasphemy against the Lord because I'm saying that here's a good thing you created and I judge this as a bad thing and I won't love it like I love this, but this is the property of the Creator. So we need to equalize with that property. So that's like an evil when they say this, especially in this Kabbalistic writing. Kedusha is working in holiness, sanctity, right? So what we're trying to do is purify. It says purity, trying to have the kli be pure. So in the beginning of the work, knowing that externally I can't do much in bestowal, I don't have lishma yet, I have to try to create a vessel fit for the light. And the only way that I can do this in the beginning is truly through annulments, because I really don't, I know that I'm moving in an egoistic method. That's just how I am. But recognizing that actually brings me out of a lower state called double concealment, because I'm actually attributing to the Creator good things. So, and I was going to talk about this a little bit tonight, just I think it's good, but there are 5 degrees on the path. And in Tanya, we talked about this online, but in Tanya it's called complete evil, the intermediary man, right? And then incomplete righteous and complete righteous. You have these 5 levels. In Kabbalah, especially through the Arizal, they consider the same things called, and it's the same exact placements, but it's just called double concealment, single concealment, correction, and then we go up into the righteous, which is revelation. And the whole thing about the Tzaddikim and this is beyond us right now. I know that Tanya and I know that Baal Salam talks about this, but we don't really know this level. So we take the beginning level. Double concealment and single concealment are 2 steps that are very big steps in the beginning of the path. When I recognize my evil inclination, I move double concealment to single concealment. What's the difference between these two? Well, in double concealment, I'm not the nation. meaning I'm not the rest of the world who's not on the path. Actually, in double concealment, I am on the path, okay, to the extent that I want to move from that state to single concealment. And double concealment means I just see the world as generally chaotic. That I maybe there's a creator, I don't know, but he definitely doesn't want me around, and he's throwing me behind his back, and I don't know what's working here. I don't know how to win this race. When I get to the point where I'm moving across to single concealment, which is the next degree, this is where I'm trying to purify to some extent. It's where I now feel that the creator force is working with me. However, there's still a problem with this because I don't see the creator as all good. I still attribute evil to the creator, meaning that I still see some parts the creator does that I just, when we say evil, I don't get, I don't understand, and I see that he punishes me to a certain extent still. Not like double concealment, but it's still here, it still lives here. Until I move from single concealment into correction, which is a totally different degree. It's like the Benoni and Netanya, how they speak of the intermediary, that I still see a creator that has multiple personalities, okay, that I can't figure out. As soon as I do good, as soon as I try to become holy, the creator throws me to the ground. And when I go back to being a filthy egoist, he starts rewarding me again. So I'm not really sure how to work with the creator in this sense. I haven't yet attained the path of correction. And the difference between the single concealment and the path of correction is that in the path of correction, I understand to a certain degree the game. Okay, I understand the relationship a little bit. I have some enlightenment to the point where I realize that when I'm thrown to the dust, that this is actually the creator giving me a gift, and that I'm able to work on my own in that area and correct myself with his help. Okay, and then before in single concealment, I didn't see this at all. I'm in a state where I'm still sleeping to a certain extent, and I don't get what's really going on. I don't understand that the upper providence is all good and loving. Okay, so we'll go back to the article. He's saying that the purity called hate evil pushes us away from these two lower states and into correction. And it pushes us because I start attributing the idea, to the creator in terms of how he's really working with me rather than how I just perceive him to be working with me. And so as I understand this game and I start to awaken myself to the path of correction, I start to hate evil, meaning my own egoistic nature, okay? And this is a good thing because now I start to put myself in a humbled position. Okay, so anyway, in the beginning of this stage here, we have to understand what the Ari is telling us and Baal Salam is telling us is that we have to work so that I'm creating my hate evil state, meaning that I'm now taking responsibility for my own nature now. And I'm now starting to see that I have to understand these degrees myself in order for me to connect with the plan of divinity. And I'm actually starting to move into correction now because I accept the shade of Kedusha and I accept the light of the upper providence now, the correct way. Meaning that the more good I do, seemingly the more I move toward the Creator, the more the Creator is going to hurl me down. Although I'm not going to look at it like that anymore. And I'm not talking about just in my mind. I'm talking about also in my experience. The more that I move through this middle intermediary path, which is a long path, okay? And the other paths can be skipped quickly if we're really moving. But the middle path is the correction path, and that takes some time because we really have to build the right relationship with the Creator. That while I'm on this correction path, I'm learning and figuring out here how to work with these sensations with the light. Okay, to the degree I prove myself, I clean myself, I'm building the desire for lishma, is the degree that I can break through the barrier and then have access to the higher pleasure again. Okay, which is the well, it's a spiritual barrier, so it's good enough. So this veil is where my goal is. Because once I have revelation, I now have a totally different relationship with the Creator. Before that, I'm sort of working in the dark, although I have some kind of understanding here. I can feel and sense something happening, ups and downs like the raging ocean. I just still don't have a personal revelation of the Creator just yet, or the Creator's light just yet. So I have to understand in this very important moment, in these corrections, how to work. And we have to understand during this time that there is an annulment, okay? And later there's a bestowal. Those are the only two ways that I can have closer attributes with the Creator. There's only two ways. I can either stop my egoistic influence, and that alone gives me some adhesion with the Creator there, right? And then later I can actually start to bestow and grow faster, because now I have the ability to actually create a circuit with the Creator. But in this first stage, I have to learn how to purify the Kli, like Balsamam says. I have to learn how to hate evil. So now when I see myself rising in selfish ways, when I see the ahap coming up, the lower desires coming up inside of me, I have to turn them off and annul, because that's what's going to allow me to have adhesion. Just me not having those desires are going to give me some adhesion. That's going to pull me up. And really, that action is my efforts. That's my efforts. You know, and so there's two stages we have to remember constantly in this path. There's fear and love. I can't have love the right way with Hashem until I learn how to be in the stall, because we know that my love right now is limited. I can only love someone when I know that they're going to give me something, or I'm going to give myself something, right? So we know our love is limited. So love goes off the table. I can't love God, all right? I can love God because God gave me life. I can make a list of things God gives me, and that's why I love God. But this isn't real love. So we know this isn't right. So the right line, love, gets put aside. That comes later. The first thing we need is fear. Okay? Fear is learned at double, single, and correction. Double concealment, single concealment, and correction. That's where we really learn how to fear. And by fear, we mean that I'm fearing my evil. Okay? This is fearing God, really. That I know and I see my inclination, and it makes me scared because it keeps me from this love. Okay? When I build my fear high enough, I get to the point where I'm actually building a desire to adhere with the Creator. So everything that I do, I have to be cognizant. This is where we say we need to scrutinize. We need to scrutinize. In the beginning, I need to see that the things that I say, the way that I feel, and the things that I think, I have to be very careful about those things. So we start limiting these desires, so pushing them aside, and we start to annul them a little bit. Because the more that I utilize these lower desires, I know that I'm completely locked out of the spiritual barrier, and I will sit down like the Arizal says, the Kabbalah is locked behind 1,000 gates. Because unless we get past this point, we'll never get to correction. So as I fear myself, really, right? As I fear my evil inclination, this creates in me the desire, the opposite desire, for me to move toward the light. Even though I'm not seeing it that way, my annulment and my fear brings me there. And then I move from single concealment into correction, and from correction, I can start to work. I'm gonna read more. It follows that there are two discernments. The first is purity. The second is kedusha. Kedusha is called the Kli, being the preparation to receive His goodness, by way of to do good to His creatures. However, this Kli is attributed to the lower one, meaning that it is for us to repair. In other words, it is for us to crave the good. And this means engaging extensively in His greatness and one's own lowness. Yet the abundance that should appear in the Kli of Kedusha is in the hands of the Creator. He is the one who imparts the lower one with bounty. At the time, the lower one cannot help in that in any way. And this is called the secret things belong unto the Lord our God. So This is saying that it's a weird relationship because I want to be in control, okay? But it's a clever trick against the ego. Knowing the ego is a controller, the Creator's taken all control from us, okay? It's a very interesting setup. He gives us this thing that wants to control, and then he takes control from us and says, I'm the only one who can let you here. So in order to get here, you have to lose control. Okay? So this is interesting and in and of itself brilliant. Okay? I need to fall away from myself, away from my ego mind, and I have to generate fear of it. Basically fear of God. Okay? Fear of not being in this divinity. And this in and of itself, this humbleness and this state propels me toward the light. Okay? And it allows me to rise above my ego. Let's see. The thought of creation called to do good to his creatures begins from Ein Sof, no end. For this reason, we pray to Ein Sof, meaning to the connection that exists between the Creator and the creatures. This is the meaning of what is written in the writings of the Ari, that we must pray to Ein Sof. It is so because Atzmudo himself has no connection with the creatures, as the beginning of the connection starts in Ein Sof, where his name is, which is the root of creation. This is the meaning of what is written in Yerushalmi 8. The one who prays will pray in the name, meaning where there is his name and Ein Sof are called in the worlds of the legend a tower filled with goodly matters. This is why we pray to the name to receive the benefit that has been prepared for us in advance. So when they use the word pray, and see pray, we've kind of lost this term in our world. We think pray is for us to get down and ask for some kind of help. So we get down and we speak some words to God and we say, please give me my car payment and also make sure that my mother doesn't die and also get good grades for me or my kids or whoever. And we make a list for God. And we basically show the Creator all the mistakes he made in our life, and we ask him somehow, if he'll have mercy on us, could you correct these mistakes? As if God was like the Wizard of Oz running around completely pulling his hair out. He has no idea what's going on, yet he's the divine, perfect Creator. So we can't see, obviously this is like a child's understanding of prayer. Prayer isn't this at all. In fact, this is the opposite of what we're supposed to do. Prayer is really a desire. Prayer is me pointing myself toward a connection with the Ein Sof, with the Creator. Prayer is something that I'm trying to build, some desire I'm trying to build that will move me in the direction of cleansing, of cleaning, of purity, of moving away from evil toward righteousness. This is what my prayer is. This is my real prayer. So we can't, so just to finish that thought, we cannot pray for anything as a mistake by the Creator. This is insane. Don't ever think that we're going to stop, that the Creator is going to suddenly say to us, well, because you begged me so much, I'm changing my mind. I'm going to heal your grandmother. You know, at first I thought she should die, but now you've whined to me enough and I'm tired of hearing from you and this is not, no. Creator is perfect. There's no change in him. The entire reality is as it is because of our perceptions only. Otherwise, it's perfect. Okay? So we don't need to we have to understand when they say prayer what that means. And the other side of this is that the Creator is telling us that I am here to give you perfection. Actually, you're already in it. And the only thing you need to do is change your relationship to me to experience it. This is the whole of Kabbalah. I need to change my perception to realize the perfection I'm in. That's it. Let me finish this article. It's just a couple paragraphs here. This is why Keter is called his desire to do good to his creatures. And the benefit itself is called Chokmah, wisdom, which is the essence of the abundance. And this is why Keter is called Ein Sof, the emanator. However, Chokmah is not called emanated yet, since there is still no Kli in Chokmah, and it's considered a light without a Kli. Hence, Chokmah too is discerned as the emanator because there's no attainment in the light without a Kli. And the whole difference between Keter and Chachma is that the root of the emanated is more disclosed. So in the end here, he goes into a discussion about the two Sefirot, Keter and Chachma, how they relate. And the reason why he's saying this is because later we'll learn that the Galgat and Naim is actually Keter and Chachma together as a unit. There's no real discernment. The place of Chachma is so connected to Keter, we really can't tell there's a difference because the vessel is completely covered in light. There really is very, very little separation between the two. One is completely filled and the other is completely filling. Therefore, the two parts are hard to discern. So that's the reason he went there. But we have to understand Binah down, because this is where we start having discernments. Because in the Behinat Bet, we see that Bina is the first stage that repels the light outside of the Kli, moves away from the light and becomes emptied. And in that emptiness, there's a big thing happen there. There's a big separation between the Kli and the light. And then further down through Zeranpin and finally in Malhu, we see a total separation, where the Kli becomes a separated vessel. And this is important later when we learn about, like when we read tests, we understand these ideas a little deeper. So the basics, to recap, and then we'll discuss, go over a couple of questions here. We have to understand, also when you read Shamati, that there is some terms here that in all of Kabbalah, when a sage is giving us terms, we have to understand that we need to also be humble. We also have to be humble when we hear those terms, because instantly we want to fight these and say there's a problem, okay? Or that, I don't understand this, this doesn't make sense to me. But if we dig a little deeper and try and see what they're trying to tell us, and we go into the text with the right attitude, it'll come out. We'll understand. We'll come to a union there, okay? Because we're really saying all the same things, I think, in the end, all right? So understand that not only through Shamati, but definitely through works like Zohar, Sefer Yetzirah, and everything else. I mean, that we really have to work on our end. It's not that the sages are making mistakes. It's that we are not understanding it. So there's a lot of times that we need to really sit back and let things sink in, okay? Like we see words like evil, we see words like ego and these things. And that is something we need to really dig inside and figure out. Left and right pillars and the different concealments, how they affect us personally. Might not be the same way that they affect someone else.